Silvia is coming and going. Her internet's probably not doing well as well. Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Ishvaro Guratmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomavda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sava Vedanta Sedanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satguru Pranatoshmaham Om Shanti 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 Om. So we begin today at page 424, 424. Okay. It is it's the class 91st. And I'm beginning from the paragraph that says, so Vidyaranya says that Satyatva, which is reality, which belongs to the shell, is falsely perceived on the silver and is transferred to something that is not real, but even the unreal is there existing due to existence of Brahman. So it's very important, this understanding, because we often say that, this world does not exist, because it's a superimposition. It's just a misapprehension, a non-apprehension of the reality, which is just Brahman. And then when this word appears, we say like, oh, it does not exist. But in fact, the word exists. And the existence of Brahman, the only reality, transfer existence to something that does not exist, but apparently exist. Okay? So we experience a lot of things that are not really there. Okay, first of all, Ishvara projects things that are just Namarupas, as we know, names and forms and colors, upon the same 5 elements. So, first of all, Ishvara projects, and then we do project our Pratibhasika. And then we say, so none of these is real, yes, but they do exist. And here it says that Brahman is transferring its existence to something that does not really exist, but apparently exists. So it belongs to Brahman, to Satyava, but it's perceived in the world. And it's the existence of Satyava that is transferred to the world, is transferred to the silver. There is only shellness, but it appears as the silver. It's the existence of the shell, quote unquote, in analogy, that is transferring existence to a silver which is unreal. So if it's not real, we would say then it does not exist. No, it does exist. Okay? And exists because Brahman, in its Sat aspect, is transferring its existence to something that exists, but it's not real. That helps us to understand Mithya. You understand? It does exist, but it's not real, and exists by the power of the only reality, which is Brahman. Likewise, so the sand, the water in the desert, sand, appears to exist. There is no real water there. There is just a mirage. But it appears and it exists, but it's not real water. But the reality of that appearance comes from Brahman, the only reality that somehow concedes or lends isness or existence to everything, even things that are just a projection of the Jiva Atma, or even things that are phenomenal appearance due to some physical principles. It's very interesting to understand that everything have their existence in Brahman, even things that are not real. If someone asks about the shell, you negate the existence of the shell and vehemently assess that it is a silver coin. Why do you talk about the non-existent shell? The person may be even upset, thinking, imagining that I found a rupee, a rupee, or a silver coin. Similarly, Vedanta says that Brahman alone is. The world is like a coin, which does exist, but it's not real. Here, it comes to a statement which is more in the lines of the Mandukya, okay? When it says that it's as good as non-existent, because you cannot do anything with the world to solve, this misunderstanding in regards of your true, free, and independent nature. You cannot resolve this misconception about yourself in the world. So it's almost as non-existent, but it exists somehow to mislead us, or it seems to be the game, kind of a labyrinth. So the world is like a coin which does not exist. The world is like something that does not exist in terms of real value. It does not exist. Because when he said the world is like a coin which does not exist, what is happening with this coin? The coin does not exist, but we project the value on the seashell. But the coin does not exist, but we project it. Okay? So now the world does not really exist, but we project it. We project value. Okay? And then it exists to us, and it's the source we have to live, and try to gain self-knowledge, gain pleasures, and so on. Sylvia keeps dropping. You guys feel free to interact with me at any time. The world is like a coin which does not exist at all, but we have managed with our pratibhasika, fertile projecting mind, to transfer reality to the world. We see the world as real. The reality is the isness of Brahman. We transfer to the world. On the other hand, we question even the existence of Brahman, because Brahman is most subtle of the subtle. And then we say, Brahman? Which Brahman? What are you talking about? The self? Whole, full, and complete self? What kind of talk is that? This is called the Mahima of avidya and Maya. So this great power, deceiving power of Maya. In the same way, Sivayamtva, the selfhood, which belongs to Kutastha, which is Anavrata Samanya Amsa. You see, we were looking forward to this section of the teachings to understand better the Kutastha. And by now, before we are like, so what is the difference between, Brahman and Kutastha? So, and more it's becoming clear that there is no difference. And of course, there is a subtle difference. We were trying to say, maybe there is a subtle difference. But no, Kutastha is the nature of Brahman appearing within the individual self. But it's the same. So this self, which belongs to the Kutastha, which is Anavrata Samanya Amsa, which is uncovered, the generalized part of all Namarupas, is perceived or experienced along with the superimposition aham or ahamkara. So we're going to perceive this uncovered, because as we say, it's hidden in plain sight. It's self-revealing as aham, I, but the aham is perceived as the ahamkara, the ego. It's a superimposition on the seashell Now we superimpose something which does not have value, although it has a, a certain value, relative value. Yeah? The value is the instrument by which we can gain self-knowledge and moksha. The ego is adhyasta vishesha amsa. Just as you say, Jesus is a snake, and in the statement, Jesus goes with the fake snake. So, whenever I say I myself, the self is adhisthana, and I is ego. Adhisthana, I forgot adhisthana, that's why I have to come up. Adhisthana is superimposed. So the self is adhisthana, and the I is the ego. No, adhyasta. Adhisthana is foundational support, foundational ground. Okay. So the self is the supporting, the foundational ground, and the ego is the superimposition, adhyasta. Yeah? Just as you say, Jesus is a snake, the isness of is a snake. Isness appears as a snake. We know that the isness in that analogy is the rope, but the is appears as a snake. In the statement, real, Jesus goes with false snake. So the reality, the Sat aspect of Brahman goes with the snake. This is the concept that it says that it joins the snake. The isness of Brahman joins all superimpositions, okay? Because the superimposition, even the unreal superimposition, like the world is unreal, but even the unreal superimposition is Brahman, because Brahman joins the superimposition, because Brahman is the background. Brahman is the foundational base on which all superimpositions take place. So Brahman goes with the false snake. Oh, how so? Oh, existence is there. So there is a superimposition upon existence that's brought a false perception of a snake. Upon what? Upon some other object, which is another projection caused by Maya Ishvara. Whenever I say myself, I myself, the self is the foundational ground, and the I is the superimposed ego. I think we all understood very clearly these notions of superimposition, but Vidyaranya is going to go deeper and deeper into this subject. Self is adhisthana, the foundational ground, the foundational support, the background, okay? The self is the foundational ground, and the Jiva is, and you, Jiva, are adhyasta, they're superimposed. You are superimposed, the Jiva is superimposed upon Brahman, which is your true nature. When I say the fan itself, it means that the self is adhisthana, is existence, which is going to lend existence to the fan. The fan is the namarupa of those elements, okay? And is adhyasa. Adhyasa. And the existence of the fan is Brahman, adhisthana. Existence itself, isness, sat. Thus there is one self which adhisthana of I. Adhisthana. So we have this ground, foundational ground of existence. There is one self which adhisthana of I, and adhisthana of you, adhisthana of he, she, and it, and all of these things are superimposed. In other words, I, you, she, it, everything, everything is superimposed on adhisthana, which is existence itself, of Brahman, our fundamental supporting or grounding nature. The adhisthana of self, the Kutastha. So now again, the adhisthana, the foundational grounds, foundational support is self is Atma. The Adhisthana is Atma. The Kutastha is Adhisthana, meaning to say the Kutastha is the self, is Atma. Here also there is a transference of reality from the Adhisthana to Adhyasana. So the reality of this Sat aspect of Brahman is transferred to the Adhyasa, to all superimpositions. So all superimpositions, they exist because the is-ness of Brahman was transferred to them. Exactly the way it happens when we take reality of the shell and transfer to a silver. So these analogies, those are analogies that brings us to our own projections as jivas. We do this projection, and then the shell is going to appear to be silver. So, and then in that context, the shell is Atma, the foundational ground for the silver. Silver wood was projected on shell wood. Shell wood is the foundational ground. So the world is what? Is the foundational ground? No, it's the superimposition on something which is the foundational ground, Brahman. So the I, ego, is what? Is the superimposition on what? On the foundational ground called Atma, the self. Here also there is a transference of reality from Adhyasana to Adhyasa, Namarupas. Exactly like taking reality to the shell, blah, 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 blah. Exactly like taking the reality of the shell and transfer to unreal silver. Not really exactly. Okay. So I made a note here now that I got the word version of this text from Claudio. We have these superimpositions, transfer of reality, the foundational ground to the Namarupas, foundational ground, and then it's transferred. The reality of the foundational support ground, background is transferred to the Namarupas. It's exactly like taking the reality of the shell and transfer to a silver coin, a real silver coin. So I just made another note here saying that it's analogy. It's not really exactly the same thing because the projection, the transference of Brahman to the world is an apparent transference of a superimposition called by Maya Ishvara, which is a Vyavaharika, the world, the material, physical universe. But the transfer of something like a robe to a perceived snake, or something like a shell to a perceived silver coin, is not a projection caused by Maya Ishvara, but it's caused by the Jiva, human Jiva, okay? So just because exactly like taking the reality of the shell. So this superimposition of the silver on the shell is caused by Ishvara, by the Jivatma, and the superimposition of Brahman, transfer of reality, transfer of existence of Brahman to the world. The world is not real, but it exists, and Brahman is transferred. It is foundational ground, so that the superimposition called the universe occurs. So it's not exactly the same because one projection is made by Maheshwara and the other is made by the Jivatma. The reality which belongs to the self, which is Adhisthana, Kutastha, Chaitanya, Adhisthana, Kutastha, Chaitanya, foundational ground of existence, which is Kutastha, Chaitanya. This self, this Atma is transferred to the Ahamkara, which is superimposed. The repetitions again and again, the same concept, and Swamiji likes to repeat, and repetition is part of the teaching methodology when we come to Vedanta, because these concepts sometimes they're a little subtle, and then when we least expect it, it becomes totally clear. The reality belonging to the Chit aspect of Brahman is transferred to the Chidabhasa, seen by from another angle. Chidabhasa is reflected consciousness. The only reality belongs to original consciousness. Chit aspect of Brahman is transferred to the Chidabhasa, another angle. The all-pervading consciousness is transferred to the localized time-bound Chidabhasa. So we have the all-pervading, beginningless, timeless consciousness that transfers itself to something which appears to be localized and unfortunately is time-bound Chidabhasa, because this Chidabhasa, this Jiva Atma, is bound by time, because Chidabhasa is Chidabhasa for as long as it has a body-mind complex at its disposal. Once the physical body goes, the Chidabhasa disappears. And then, and that's the problem of defining oneself and claiming I am the Chidabhasa, unless you understand that the Chidabhasa is original consciousness appearing as reflected consciousness. I take the time-bound, localized Chidabhasa as Satya, whereas unlocalized, timeless Chit alone is Satya. So I take the time-bound, localized Chidabhasa as real, whereas unlocalized, timeless Chit, timeless alone, timeless Brahman consciousness is Satya only, alone. This is the beginning. Vidyaranya will elaborate that in the next 16 verses. Before they were 18, so we have covered another 2. Vidyaranya explains the mechanism of superimposition. What exactly happens at the time of superimposition with the example of the shell-silver superimposition, the silver superimposed on the shell. We introduce 3 technical words for this purpose: anavrata samanya amsa, anavrata vishesha amsa, adhyasta vishesha amsa. In English, it's translated as uncovered foundational ground or general part. Let's see, we see something, and then there is a isness there which is uncovered, even on the general aspect. Okay, and then there is a superimposed specific part, because we only superimpose specific things. We superimpose attributes to something or namarupas to something when this something is not really perceived. Okay, but we get the general idea that there is something there. Okay, just recapping a little bit, we get a general idea there is something there. That general aspect of something is uncovered, but I don't quite understand what it is. And then we superimpose some attributes or some other namarupas to that uncovered general part. And then I have a covered specific part. And covered specific part is pushed aside. A covered specific part is a shell or it is a rope, but it's covered to me and it's there very clear. So we just neglect that because we can't really understand. And then what we do, we superimpose some specific parts, and we can use words replaced a specific part, and we replace or superimpose now. Because you see, it's a replacement. We can't see really what it is. So, but we know that generally there is something that is, therefore it's not completely covered, it's uncovered. But then I superimpose some specific aspects to it. I know there is something, I I superimpose that it is a snake. So, and then there is a covered, a specific part, because in fact it's a robe, but it's covered to me. So I replace the covered, the specific part, with what? With my projection, with my superimposed projection of what it may be. Yeah? So going back to the ego and the self, Atma. Yeah? So I have a sense that there is something that exists and something that's conscious, but I don't quite guess what it is. Yeah? There is something here that exists, something here that's conscious, but I don't quite see. It's the general aspect of its Satchit is there, but not the specifics of what is Satchit is. Huh? And then what I do, there is something there that's open, but there is something is close. Are they specific as what it is? This Satchit. This Satchit is Ananda. It's Brahman, but it's covered. And then, because it's covered, I perceive something else. What I do, I push aside Satchitananda and I project the body-mind complex, the Namarupa, the ego, the Ahamkara, okay? We can use the word, we superimpose or we replace reality with something unreal. We replace the unperceived shell with what? With a silver coin. We superimpose the self, limitless Brahman, with what? The limit, time-bound ego, ahamkara. We apply this first in the case of a shell silver. And if it works in this case of shell silver, we have to apply this understanding with regards to the Kutastha, the I, the self, the Atma also. In the case of the silver shell example, the isness, the this-ness or isness are anavrata, samanya, amsas. So the isness, the sat aspect, there is something there. It's not really covered, but it is covered, the specifics. The uncovered general parts of this shellness is covered. The specific part, avrata, vishesha. So what is covered are the specifics that this is a shell. The shellness is not perceived, and then we project what? The coinness or the silverness. In same darkness, in semi-darkness, as we know, twilight, but the isness is perceived even in twilight. So what is twilight? Twilight is the human condition. We have a little bit of sattva, and then we have rajas and tamas, and then we see certain things, especially regarding what we are, and we have a difficulty. Why? Because there is too much darkness. What darkness? There is too much rajas and tamas. And then our vision, our understanding, our wisdom is not such to see the most obvious thing, that there is something that does not change within my day-to-day experience of life. And I am that aspect, which is not subject to change, modification, or time and space. So we need the help of Ishvara, and he just throws the revealed knowledge of the Upanishads for us. We live in this darkness, semi-darkness, and we don't quite see the limitless nature of the I. We replace our limitless nature, but by a specific part which is limited, which is going to displace our real fundamental part, which is limitless consciousness. I project the body-mind into the self. I project the silverness on the shellness. I project the body-mind, the ahamkara on the limitless self. The silverness or coinness is called adhyasta, vishesha amsa, a superimposed specific part. So what is our superimposed specific part? When we bring it to our Jiva experience, what is our superimposed specific part? The ahamkara, the body-mind complex. So we replace our general fundamental ground of Satchitananda, and then we remove it or replace it with something that is more tangible, but really problematic, because it's time-bound, space-bound, limited by all means, a source of suffering. And then Swami brings this nice angle here. At the time of ignorance, sat, existence, reality, isness, or samanya, amsa, this general background, general ground of existence, of isness. At the time of ignorance, this isness, this sat aspect of Brahman will join the superimposed part. So it does join the superimposed part. And at the time of knowledge, the silverness is dismissed and the shellness comes back to the original shellness. So it apparently comes back, and the general part drops the silverness and joins the original shellness. Okay, so when I read that, I made a few notes, throwing that the word apparently, because as we know, there is no question of space, time, and movement in understanding. Yeah, you either know or you do not know. Yeah? So at the time of ignorance, we have this foundational ground of existence, which is there as the background. And then it says that joins the superimposition. It's going to join the superimposition. It does not join, it remains there as the background of existence of everything, but something is superimposed. You cannot separate the superimposed from the ground on which the superimposition was taken. But Brahman is not joining anything, it's just there as Brahman, conceding existence to all superimpositions of Namarupas. So at the time of ignorance, even when there is total ignorance, Brahman is there blessing all superimpositions with its existence. But then at the time of knowledge, the time of self-knowledge, it is a shell, it's not silver, it is a rope, it's not a snake, it is the limitless Brahman, it's not the ahamkara. At the time of knowledge, what happened? The original, fundamental reality or ground of existence comes back, appears again, to, as the general saying, as the foundational existence, and the superimposition is dropped. And then the original fundamental ground of such existence, it goes back to its source. It's as if it was there supporting the Namarupa, and then it leaves the Namarupa, goes back to its fundamental ground. So this is all metaphorically speaking. So there is no question of time, space, and movement. There is no thing of join, going back and coming back, come back. This notion of space is what I want to make sure that we don't take it literally. It's not that Brahman comes back at the time of knowledge. Brahman has been there at all times. It's not that they come back and then it gives a push on the Namarupas, and say, I am Brahman. No, it was there before, it remains there afterwards, and it does not go anywhere, does not comes back later on. It does not join anything. It's just there. It's the nature of all pervasive Brahman, which embraces, accepts, accommodates all superimpositions. Now we see that everything in the world is a superimposition projected by us from the standpoint of our human experience. And the world is there, embracing, accepting, accommodate all our superimpositions. The same on the level of Maheshwara, it's superimposed, the Vyavaharika. And, Brahman is there, accommodating all these superimpositions, providing it with existence, not reality, providing it with existence. This-ness, the is-ness, the Sat aspect of Brahman, join the Adhyasta Vishesha Amsa and the Avrata Vishesha Amsa also. Is-ness is at Anyana Kale and at Yanana Kale also it is. So Brahman is there in the case of the ignorant notion, reality is the body-mind, and the isness of Brahman is as well there at the time of the knowledge. Reality is Brahman alone. Brahman is there at the ignorance of the Jiva, and it's there at the knowledge of the Jiva. It has always been there because it's the only reality, the fundamental ground of existence. Since it joins both ignorance and knowledge, at the time of ignorance, we have the Vishesha Amsa. We project the Ahamkara on Brahman. And at the time of Yanakala, Yanakala Vishesha Amsa, it is called Samanya Amsa. So at the time of knowledge, we acknowledge the Samanya, the foundational ground of existence, free and independent from every one of these particular specific configurations of Namarupas. Because at the time of knowledge, we have to acknowledge and claim our nature, which is attributeless. And therefore, we don't have any specific nature. We don't have any particular form. There are no attributes. We are free of attributes. Attributes are added up by Maheshwara when duality comes into play. If there is no duality, there is no question of attributes. If there is more than one, and then there are two things. If there are two things, what happens? So there is interaction between two things. Imagine that Mitya was exactly like Satya, and they say there are two things, Satya and Mitya, and both are the same thing. Okay, and then what is the duality? Duality is only possible when there are two factors or principles that are not the same. Otherwise, it's sameness. So if there is Mitya, there is duality, plurality, and then everything is impacting and changing everything else. Where am I? The isness of ignorance and momento on the moment of self-knowledge as well. The isness of Brahman is there. Once you understand this, you have to apply this in the case of the Jivatma, of course. In the case of Jiva, the uncovered general part, Anavrata Samanya Amsa, is the self, is Atman. Atma, the self, is Brahman, is Satchitananda, the uncovered, because we know that we exist. We know that we are conscious. So this is what we are. But then there are no specifics about what we are because we are attributeless. We don't have properties, qualities, anything that can describe what we are. We can describe things if there are qualities, properties, and attributes. So Anavrata, Samanya Amsa, is the self. And it needs to be retained as the only reality when Yanakala comes. Although it's always present, even in the Anyanana Kala, in times of ignorance, the self is all the time there. But knowledge comes, you just take the real nature, the Anavrata Samanya Amsa, the aspect that is indifferentiate, free from attributes, free from namarupas, and then you retain that as reality, and the ignorance is just dismissed as a superimposition. The superimposition is not going to go anywhere, but at least you know it is a superimposition. The covered superimposition, Vishesha Amsa, is Brahmahood or Kutasthahood itself. Kutastatva, nature of the Kutastha, which is the specific nature that's covered, since we never say we are changeless. So now we are talking about the specific nature of that which is not really seen. When we see the superimposition of the silverness in the shellness, we see something, we don't know what it is, and then we project a silver, silver thing on that thing. So now I'm projected because I'm not seeing the specifics of that, okay? But at the time of knowledge, I see the specific. So now this self that before he said as the generalized foundational ground of Sat, now is seen for all it is in time of knowledge. When in time of knowledge, when you see, and you know it's not something vague and abstract and words cannot describe and nobody can reach. Whosoever says what it is does not know what it is. When you know what it is, you know what it is. It's revealed. Brahmahood, Kutastatva, is revealed, is self-revealed at all times. Kutastha is self, but none says the self is Kutastha. None says in that place, Kutastha is replaced by Ahamkara, meaning to say, because most people are ignorant. Now I jumped the paragraph, let me go back here. The covered specifics of Brahmahood. What are the specifics of Brahmahood, of selfhood? Who can tell?
I think in this verse or another one, they say unattachedness and also blissful are two that the verses mention.
Yeah. So they covered a specific part, of the self, of Brahmahood, that we don't see until we see. And then when we see, although it's invisible to the eyesight, but now we know that the Ahamkara is superimposed. But now the covered specifics of Brahmahood are no longer covered. Why? Because I know what Brahmahood is. I know what the self is. The self is Satchitananda. Is existence, consciousness of limitless nature. Is the ground of the universe on which Maya projects the universe. And it does not change with the universe. The universe may be superimposed and Maya may be tired, go to sleep and pulls the superimposition. And Brahman, our true nature, as Satchitananda, is never affected. So once we know Kutastha nature of the Kutastha, which is the specific nature of this Brahman, which was covered. But once we know, And why we know that it is covered for most people? Because nobody says, I am a karta and changeless in nature. Nobody talks in those terms. Huh? So the real nature of Brahman is a karta, a bhokta, nirvikaraha, never change. But nobody feels that way. Not that we need to go about telling that to everybody, but nobody thinks that way. Nobody appreciates the true nature of Kutastha, which is Brahmahood. Instead, what we do? We talk about, oh no, I am a young body, I am an older body, boyhood, Kaumarya, adulthood. And nobody appreciates the changeless nature of Kutastha, our true self, Brahmahood. Brahmahood or Kutastha is what Anavrata Vishesha Amsa is, and it is self-revealed. That's why it said here, Anavrata Vishesha Amsa is Brahman. It appears to be covered, and it appears to be vague and abstract as something. There is something, but I don't know what it is. But Kutastha is uncovered, and it has its specifics, particulars, or features, or natures. Okay? It has its fundamental ground of existence, which is the Amsa, the part of every Namarupa project by Maheshwara. And this Kutastha, Brahmahood, is self-revealed. It is self-revealed because it's not hidden, or it is hidden in plain sight. How so? I mean, once you understand, once you become a student of Vedanta, you know that the mind, the ego, the intellect, none of that stands without conscious existence. Conscious existence is there, supporting the existence of the ahamkara, the body-mind complex, and everything there is in the universe. And then you understand that is my fundamental, essential nature. And now I understand it's one without a second, it's non-dual. It does not change with my human experience. It's free, independent, even of the world, of the entire project of the universe. Kutastha is self, but unfortunately, people do not say that I am the self, and the self is Kutastha. And instead, people say Kutastha is ahamkara. Kutastha is the Jivatma. Ahamtvam, or ahamkara, or Jivatma. We superimpose those specifics that belongs to the Namarupas of this apparent projection on that which is the foundation of my existence, which is Kutastha, the self, Atma. I superimpose the particular configuration of the body-mind construct on that which is my true nature, limitless Brahman. Thus, Kutastha is gone. Is it gone? No. But from the standpoint of the Jiva, Kutastha is gone. What is this Kutastha? I have never met Kutastha. It's gone, and Jiva appears, the imposter, the ahamkara. The self is Kutastha. Must be the right sentence. The self is Kutastha. Must be the right affirmation, but we find that Kutastha is covered, and self is the ahamkara. Then the Jiva is the projected Vishesha Amsa. It's specific configurations as the body-mind construct. That is what is the approach of Vidyaranya in this section of the chapter 6. The isness, this-ness, reality belong to the shell, belong to Brahman, to Atma. But by pushing aside the Atma, we don't push. And then this Sat nature, this isness nature, is attributed to the false superimposition, the silver or the ahamkara. In the same way, Svayamtava, self, and reality, ishood or isness or eminence belonging to Kutastha are transferred to Vikshepa, to the superimposed ahamkara. Vikshepa here refers to the ahamkara or chidabhasa or jiva, because it's a superimposition, it is a projection. So the reality, the isness, which belongs to consciousness, to Kutastha, apparently is transferred to the ahamkara. The superimposed ahamkara becomes the great isness. I am this ahamkara. Here, Vikshepa refers to chidabhasa. Selfhood, amhood, should go to chit. So this sense of existence should go to consciousness. But instead, this sense of existence, of conscious existence, keep going to the chidabhasa, keep going to the ahamkara. And we refer to ourselves as the ahamkara, as the chidabhasa, instead of just chit. I am consciousness. No, I am reflected consciousness, chidabhasa. Instead, I am limitless consciousness, individualized consciousness. Now I am the human consciousness. I am the mind. How do we know that? Because when I say I am, we never appreciate our all-pervading chit nature, our limitless, all-pervading is another way to say purna, our full, whole, and complete, something that pervades everything, is one without nothing, because everything that's pervaded by space, are just configurations. The true reality of the universe, the most fundamental essence of the universe is space. Likewise, the I am, we do not appreciate our most pervasive nature, more pervasive than space, but we appreciate our localized individual nature as the body-mind construct. And we refer to ourselves as chidabhasas. And this is called superimposition or vikshepa. Anything from you guys?
It's lovely. I'm enjoying very much.
It must have a purpose. Swamiji is a master. Our gurus, such as Vidyaranya and others, they are masters of Vedanta. They have their teaching style, and it all has a certain purpose, It keeps hammering similar concepts, repeating them until somehow we see it clearly. We find this changeless, free of actions, actionless, independent aspect or nature within our very human experience. Let's see what the next sloka brings us. As the blue exterior and triangular form of the mother pearl are lost to the vision, so the non-tactility and blissness of Kutastha are obscured by superimposition. Okay, so in this verse, Vidyaranya brings the concept, a very nice concept. We still talking about the seashell, but as we know, the seashell has two sides. The inside, it's shining, it's reflecting, and brings about upon light features such as silverness. But on the external part, there is a dark blue and triangular form. And this dark blue triangular form usually are lost to the vision, meaning to say, when we walk around, we never take the shell to be silver if it is upside down. So this is a very interesting thing. The same shell appearing to have two natures. One is non-reflective, and the other is reflective. When I first read that, immediately came to my mind the analogy to try to draw an analogy with the physical body and the subtle body. The subtle body is going to shine with human consciousness, and the physical body remains there as just a physical inert instrument. So we have the shell. The shell has two sides, and the external dark part, they are lost to our vision. Likewise, the non-tactility, the tangible perception. So what is you can perceive by touch is one of the five senses, okay? So we know that the Kutastha consciousness cannot be seen, touched, smelled, and so on. So the analogy here is when the shell is turned upside down, we don't sense its presence, neither by seeing or touching. We don't see. The non-tactility and the blissness of Kutastha are likewise obscured by a superimposition of the ahamkara. So we have the shell is there, and then it's upside down. We make no mistakes. We will never make a superimposition of silverwood in that shell. When it's up, and then we make it, okay? So when I thought about the two bodies, is like if this physical body is there in deep sleep, okay, there is no, or even in Nivikalpa Samadhi, there is no possibility of superimposition. We don't superimpose anything. We don't make any projection when the body is there and the mind is not there. The mind is suspended or suppressed. There is no superimposition. So we have this shell, it's there, and then it's turned upside down. There is no chance of misapprehension. So superimposition is not there. Why? Because it is in a certain condition that is similar to total ignorance of the deep sleep. But once we awake, once the shell is turned otherwise, and then there is room for what? For superimposition. Because you see something more clearly, but you're not quite clear of what it is. And then there is room for the Pratibhasika superimpositions of the Jiva Atmas. Okay, so we're going to go into this verse following the exposition of Swami Ji this coming Thursday, as always, Ishwara allowing. Okie dokie. Anything from you guys? Oh,
I'll work on a couple more verses and send the.
Go ahead, please.
I was saying I'll send you some more verses with Sanskrit. I'll look them up.
Yeah, we still have for this 35, 36, and 37. So I appreciate very much your homework.
Yeah, thank you, Lynn. It helps a lot.
I appreciate having the homework. It's good for me. Thank you.
Okie dokie. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, my friends. Namaste. We meet again next Thursday. Ishwara.
Okay, thank you, Arlinda.
Thank you.